don't kill me. Please wear your masks, please. It's really, and especially if you're going to the food court area or the exhibition area, just wear your mask, please. I think it's fascinating how much, I'm not going to lie, and it's something we kind of take for granted, how much education has, how much iteration has come to education over the years. It is very fascinating. We literally went from paper to talking about the blockchain for technology. There's so much innovation that's happened in edtech that we kind of take for granted to a very large extent. And I do take it for granted, and I don't always remember until something like happens, There's a lot of revolution that has come to education. Now you can go on YouTube and learn anything, literally anything. You can become anything from YouTube. You have like open courseware that are free of charge. And this is something that a lot of people take for granted, including myself, right? Which is why I think that Faiz's overview was very important. Now, to the next panel that we have is still talking about education. And this panel is going to be talking about the next frontier in education. And on this panel, we have Jennifer Nneji, who is the Senior Business Executive at the Venture Garden Group. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes to the stage. Hi, Jennifer. Make una clap, I beg. Where's Jennifer? And on the same panel, we have Adewale Yusuf, the CEO of AltSchool Africa. Hi, Wale. We also have Honey Ogundeyi, who is the CEO of Edukoya. Please clap for Honey as she comes on stage. And finally, welcome. And finally, to moderate this session, we have Oluwaseyi Adelaju, the CEO of Greatly. Make una clap. If it's me, if I'm coming on this stage and you don't clap, I'll go back down. I'm sorry. But yes, thank you guys. And they are going to be talking to us about the next frontier in education. Damola, please fix this mics, fix this audio. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone. Faiz made our job easier, so let's do something. Tap your finger if you think the school did not prepare you for whatever you are doing now. Can you snap your finger? Oh, that's loud. Snap your finger if you think better education could have helped. Okay, snap your finger if you cannot reference the things you did in school any longer. One more. Snap your finger if you think schooling has changed in the last 10 years. Okay, now snap your finger if you think it will still change, to be different in another 10 years. All right, since everyone is snapping their fingers, let's talk to those who can really look into it. So in this session, we'll basically be analyzing the trend, seeing what has happened in the past in education. Thankfully, Faiz has painted a good picture for all of us. And then we'll also do a post-mortem to see what worked and maybe what did not work. And then we are not prophets, but we will try to look into the future and say what we think will work and what will drive it. And my job is really easy because I will just be listening to these really intelligent people. I'm excited to be sharing this with Adewale, Jennifer, and Honey. So, to cut the chase, let's just get straight into it, shall we? All right. So let's make this really practical. In your experience in education, let me start from Adewale, since you are closest to me. Let's forget about everything. What have you done in the past that did not work in education?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's really nice to be there. So, for me, I think when you look at education, education is the bedrock of any nation. And for us, we've been doing the same thing over and over and over again. And what you realize is the same curriculum that they used in 1990 is the same curriculum that is still out in the market in our schools. So we have a lot of people that are graduating from school that don't really have marketable skills, don't have employable skills. And to give you an example, a lot of people in schools right now, if you're studying computer science, you will be doing COBOL, Fortran, and some of these things. I mean, no company will employ you, I can tell you this. Because even the enterprise company that created some of these skills then, they've moved on to something next, to another thing. So maybe it's the school that is lazy, or also maybe it's expensive to actually change the curriculum. But looking at the education at the end of the day, we look at it like Nigerians, Africans, we are different people. Irrespective of what we learned in school or what we did in school, we still come out and still be exceptional because we went to get other skills for ourselves. So a lot of things hasn't changed. A lot of things will definitely change because this is disruption. When you see a lot of smart people entering this industry, you will definitely know. And if you look at this panel already, you will see like people entering it. These are people that have experience and that have wealth of resources to make sure they change this. So that's what I think in the nutshell.
Thank you, Adewale. So I'm coming to Honey in a bit. Let me go to Jennifer. Jennifer has quite some background in monitoring and evaluation. So Jennifer, how do we evaluate what is working or what is not working?
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the major things we need to look at is data, right? I think that's one of the areas that we fail to some extent, or we're still very new at. We don't really know how to consolidate data, how to use the data that we have, right, to make very informed decisions and changes. And that cuts across every sector, including education. I think there's a lot of data, right, but the ability to consolidate that and then feed that information to government, and government using that to make changes, appropriate changes, it's not really or readily available at this point. So we need more of that, and I think that's an area that is really key. You would say, like, we've already established that there are a lot of things that have changed over time. Part of the things you would see is that in Nigeria, a lot of people that should get into school, even though they are seeking admission, don't get into school. And there's data. If you look at JAMB, you see that there are a lot of people, over 70%, don't get into school even after writing JAMB, right? And they are qualified to get into school. So those are some of the things that we need to start looking at. What's the matter? What's really happening? Why is that an issue? You know, you look at that and then take those buckets of questions that you're asking yourself, the issues. Why are people not getting to school? Is it limited resources? Is it the type of teachers we have? Is it that we need to build more universities? You know, things like that. You start asking very important questions that you now drill down to answers that can give you solutions to what you need in the education sector. So I think data is very important. That's what
Thank you. So, Honey, let's take it off from there. We all agree that data is important to help education. So, what kind of data do we need? If data is going to be what will drive the change, or what kind of data should we be collecting at this point?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah.
Morning, and really excited to be here. Maybe I'll just start with the background of what we do. So at Edukoya, we built an app which helps students master key subjects and prepare for examinations. And I think that data can be really used in different ways. But one of the things that I think is empowering today is, as Adewale said, when we look at education, it really hasn't changed for the last 50 years. In fact, it's been quite stagnant. And the difference that we can really bring into education is really with technology. So one of the things that we see a huge opportunity is in bringing data availability to even parents and to students. So for example, if you're a student practicing, for example, on the Edukoya app, or you're a parent of a child practicing, giving you that data that lets you know what topic the person is performing well in and what topic they need to improve on. That data can be really useful in helping you to just prepare for that examination in a smarter and more efficient way. So I think there's really big applicabilities of using data really first in just improving student outcomes, in really improving learning outcomes, in being able to really personalize the education, because ultimately that's what we're trying to get to. You and I don't learn in the same way. I might be a more visual learner. You might be one that is more prone to learning with books and textbooks. Technology can help us practicalize that. So we're very much in the early days, I think, in Nigeria and in Africa of starting to use that data efficiently, but that's somewhere in which, the line in which the market needs to go into next.
Thank you. So if I would write on that, honey, who's collecting this data today, and who should be responsible for this data even going into the future?
Well, so data isn't this one static thing, right? Everybody is collecting a certain amount of data. Schools are a huge trove of data. They, for example, the school that you went to in primary school and secondary school knows how you performed across different subjects across that whole 12-year cycle. So data isn't really a new thing in this way. What's going to be interesting now is how people collect data, how they use it, how they interpret it, and how they use it to have better learning outcomes in education. So I think that's where the edtech companies like ours come in, right? We can then work with the school, you can work with platforms, you can help government, you can even work with parents just to help everyone use that data and interpret it so that you have a better educational experience, right? I think that's where the difference and sort of emerging trends will be.
Yeah, thank you so much. Adewale, so there is, let me check with the audience. How many of us have taken a course in the last 6 months? How many of us heard of that course for the first time within the last 6 months? You just knew that this thing existed and you have to learn about it within the last 6 months. Okay. How do we design what people should learn? How do we help people discover what's the best thing to learn and what's the best way to find this knowledge easily?
Okay. So one of the things we realized, and it was shocking to us, and also this is something I've been building personally, that I'm trying to build some courses around, is when it comes to education, the way the West is doing it is not the way we have to do it. So I see a lot of people, like we have data, 1.3 million people write jams every year. Over 600,000 people graduate from universities every year. But when people are graduating, ask me what are they really studying. For example, you see people doing studying banking and finance. We have just 23 commercial banks. People are doing, you see people studying geography, doing a lot of things that when you go to the market, you have to start all over again. And what we just realized is we need to define education for Africa. We need to redefine it. We can't be spending 4 years in school because we focus a lot on higher education for now. We can't be spending 4 years in school and come out and we are not relevant to the market. So we need to be training people. People need to be studying based on what is relevant. For example, we're having a research department where we are researching what will be the next skills that will be relevant in the next 5 years. Let me give an example. When we started AltSchool, we said we're doing front-end, back-end, and cloud engineer. And a lot of people say, oh, I want to do mobile. I want to do this. Who is employing for the mobile? Because now, even people are using mobile web. Do you want to get a skill? The same mistake the traditional school made, you want us to make the same mistake all over again. It had to change. We need to research. People need to come out and realize, like, I can be employable, even from entry level. I can have a skills that is actually an entry level skills. And that's what we are doing. We need to redesign school. And I have a theory that in Africa, we need to focus on like having diploma even before a lot of people have like BSc or something. We don't have the luxury of 4 years. Let's just have 1 year that people will start working. Because a lot of people, the continent is a poor continent. How can we enable people? How can we support people? And that's one of the things we need to do. We need to redefine education for ourselves and not just copy and paste, which we've been doing with a lot of things over the years. That's my view on that.
Thank you very much. So I'm seeing interesting trends here. Learning to bit size, so more nano degrees, more diploma type thing. So people can pick a skill and just focus on mastering that skill. But then one question is, okay, again, let me ask the audience. Can you snap your finger if you think online learning is not for everyone? Okay. Can you snap your finger if you would rather do an hybrid course rather than a fully online course? Can you then snap your finger if you feel intimidated when you tell people that you can't do fully online courses? Okay. Honey, online learning is a trend. Let's look at it. So let me start with Jennifer. Jennifer, online learning is a trend. How do we tell if online learning is working or not? And if it is not working, if it's most likely working, I don't know. If it is not working, why is it not working? If it is working, what's the signal that it is working?
Okay, I'll take it this way, right? Because I think online learning we've been doing it, but it's new, especially in Nigeria, but a lot of people haven't really opened their hearts or minds to accepting that. But it's something that would happen, right? Even with COVID, with the pandemic, we all know that things have changed. Businesses had to change their operations, and things like that. So online learning will definitely stay either as a hybrid or as a full online option, especially with the situation that we have in Nigeria, especially where people can't get into schools because of limited, universities, right? So part of the things in my own company, EduTech, right? I work for Venture Garden, but one of the portfolio companies under Venture Garden Group is EduTech, and it's basically bridging that gap, right, for people that can't get into tertiary institutions or want to scale up in certain professional certifications and things like that, right? Is that we've seen that there is know-how that online learning will not be necessary. And this is because of the change or the trends that we've seen over time, where people want to actually have an education, but they can't, right? How we'll definitely find out if online learning is working is when we start actually doing that and start gathering the data and using that data appropriately. So for instance, you have, and this will come from schools definitely that have started engaging on online learning, they will be in a better position to say, this is working and this is not, and these are the areas we need improvements. If we partner with like OAU, ABU, Babcock, and some other schools, right? There are a lot of learnings that we'll be picking, and then we see that, okay, where teachers probably need help in adapting to some of the online techniques and all that, they get trained, right? So we have that option or service for them and all that. But what I'm trying to say is that it is not totally clear, right? But you would have to start doing the online learning, and then more information around that would now surface, how it is working, how we can improve on it, because it is a new normal, and it's definite that we would still need to find a way to adapt to it. It might be a hybrid option, or it could be maybe a full-on option, but depending on that, right? So I would just say that data would show, and that would come from the more people that start using it, right, to actually see and tell what is working, what is not.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Honey, let's paint a picture. What does the classroom look like today? And if we are going to recreate the classroom in under 5 years, what would you remove, what would you add?
Thank you. I think that's a really good question. So I think we all know what classrooms look like a little bit today, right? Lots of people in a class. When I went to school, there was 100 people in my class. So teacher used to just teach the first 2 rows, and then, from row 5 and 6, we got most of our education from lesson teachers. So I think, unfortunately, it still hasn't really improved, right? So it's still lots of people very much focused on rote learning, cramming, passing exams, and we're just trying to go step by step and layering. And as Adewale said, is a lot of times when you come out, also the outcomes are not great in terms of helping you get jobs or being in the relevant role that you need to be. I think in the future, and what in the future that I see is really, for me, is building like a global online classroom for Africans. How do we connect people to the best teachers, the best content, the best education, and how do we make that more accessible and more affordable at a price point that most people can get to? And that is the future that we see, and that's what we are building at Edukoya. We see an opportunity where we can get the best teachers from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Sierra Leone, and we can empower them to be able to teach students wherever they might be. We see a future where, as you're studying, you have real-time knowledge of where you're doing well in, where you're not doing well in, even getting into the future where the data can analyze, maybe you should be a science student or you should be an arts student. I know many of us back in the day chose that arbitrarily, but today there's enough data to inform what you're good to, what's your propensity, and make really good data-led recommendations. So that's the future that we see. And I think the future of education in Africa has to be built by Africans, has to be built by people that have gone through the system, that feel a real personal connection to the problem. I have children, I've been through the system, I went to school in Nigeria. We're passionate about now, how do we make it better for the next generation? Who is going to educate the next billion people online in Africa? And I think that some of those companies are going to be founded, out of Nigeria. We're going to see them emerging. And I think what's going to be interesting is that the big edtech companies in Africa are going to be the big edtech companies of the world. The opportunity is greatest here. The problem is greatest here. And the solution that we're going to build is going to be something that people are going to be able to use for generations to come. So for people who are passionate about building the future of education, please, we're hiring at Edukoya. Always reach out to us, especially female engineers. I'm always on the lookout.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask Adewale. I'm going to ask Adewale that question again, and this time I would love that. Let's look at it again, similar just how Pony has answered. Looking at the classroom today, what technologies will power the classroom of the future? Now that Pony has said, hey, we're looking for all the smart people to come and work in education, what should they be focusing on, and what should they build for the education of the future?
So what technology will power future of education in Africa? I say passion and interest. And I know I'm not saying technology because at the end of the day, people forget that technology is a tool that you use to reach people. And see, the reality, I know a lot of people think, oh, e-learning is not going to stay, everything like e-learning is here to stay. It's inevitable. When you look at a market like Nigeria, 200 million people, and you look at Africa, 1.4 billion, with 60% of this population under the age of 25, which means over 700 million people need a form of education or skills. You can't teach that in 4 walls of school. You have to look for a place to scale it, and that's technology. Let me give you an example. We launched AltSchool late last year, and when you look at the number of people that have enrolled, and this is why I say passion and interest. When you see people that have enrolled, they're asking questions every day. What am I going to do? What is going to happen? How will I be part of this? That is what is going to fuel it. Because there is an adage which says when the student is ready, the teacher shows up. Company like ours will show up. Edukoya will show up. And others will show up. But passion and interest, you can't take that out. We started a program last year where we train developers, and this is why we have confidence in AltSchool, where we train developers to say, okay, there are some people in the market, you just need to be world class, because you learn overnight, you are on your own. So we decided, we took some people as an experiment, we paired them with engineers in Twitter, Spotify, Facebook, and for 6 months, they will be graduating this month, but guess what? They had already getting jobs. One of the guys that first got a job is working with a company in the UK, and he lives in Oshogbo. Imagine I want to create a physical school that I need to bring everyone. I won't be able to reach that guy. That guy works in Oshogbo. He's earning, the amount he's earning, I won't disclose it here, but I know he earns even more than any commissioner in that Oshogbo. But he lives there with his family and his school, and you won't know him. He's just moving around. So now for the first time, we have access to really distribute education, to give people education on the continent. For AltSchool, we have people apply from over 20 countries. From Botswana, from Zimbabwe, from Uganda. That is what education is. Imagine I'm now starting this, they will be thinking of coming down there. I have people from Yobe, I have people from Kaduna. Even the security situation in this country, it's another thing. I would not be worrying, say, you have to travel down, the logistics of that. And that's why we can make education affordable. That's why we have to do what we are doing. We are investing millions, right? We're investing millions into the technology, into the platform to make sure, but we have no choice than to make e-learning our own with a lot of partnership, because that's the best way we can reach people, and that's the best way we can educate Africa, and that's the best way we can get Africa to be part of this next revolution and make something happen on the continent.
Interesting. You can do that. You can do that louder if you want. All right. Thank you. And as we wrap up this session, first of all, I want to especially thank speakers. Great sessions. You all enjoyed that, right? Thanks for the passion that this session exuded. I like us to remember the keywords we've mentioned here. Passion is going to drive education.
Someone is raising up for questions. Do you have time?
I have less than a minute. Is that a request for a question? Am I able to take a question? Okay. Please, you can. Yes, please.
I think.
Okay, please come. Just introduce yourself and run through your question quickly. We're out of time. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. My name is Tunji Akimbo. I just have a very direct question. So everybody is doing e-learning, but what are we doing about ISPs, right? So we've seen a situation where people want to learn online. Can you hear me clearly?
Oh, okay.
Okay, I take off my mask. Okay, I said my name is Tunji Akimbo, and e-learning is stay. I agree with that. But there is a challenge across Africa, Lagos, and that is ISPs, where people struggle. So take, for instance, you are doing an interactive class on Zoom, and then somebody's connection is failing, and stuff like that. How are we trying to engage ISPs in Nigeria and in Africa to make sure that internet service is excellent enough to enable that sector?
Thank you. I have an answer for that.
Who wants to take that question?
Okay. Oh, okay. So here's the thing. It's actually a fantastic question. Because when we wanted to start, one of the questions people ask is internet. Let me start with this is sometimes we don't understand how much people can put into when they want to learn. You understand? When we were starting, we were doing some campus ambassador stuff, and we had more than 200 people on the Zoom call from different schools, from Yobe, from different places, and people were online for that period. You understand? Those are some of the things we are betting on. And something that is inevitable is 5G is launching soon. 6G will launch, 7G will launch, 8G will launch, 10 will launch, because there will be more people investing in infrastructure. But after saying that, there's something we put into consideration, which is this. We are working with one of the biggest mobile network provider on the continent. So to access, this is not a deal that is there, so people don't quote me, but one of the things we are doing, we put it into consideration, which means to access platform like ours, like Edukoya, you will be able to access it with zero data or also discounted data. Those are some of the partnerships we are working, and when it's sealed, we'll be able to close it. But we know everybody has plans for education.
Thank you very much. A round of applause, please. This was a beautiful panel. Please clap for them. Clap for them, clap for them. Please stand up for a group photo, everybody. Thank you. That was a very interesting panel. I would have wanted it to go on.